Alrighty, people. Alright, what's good in the hood, homies? This is Renegade Operative here, and we got some recent news. Obviously, a lot of stuff happening in the nerd culture. Today, we got the Black Widow trailer, which I will do a prompt breakdown of eventually, and we're also analyzing these screenshots. We have a bit of a revelation here. It's not Resident Evil revelations. We're talking about Resident Evil 3 Remake because we have some screenshots here from the game that got leaked, or some cover art, so to speak, because this cover art is deadly reminiscent of the Resident Evil 2 Remake cover art if you've seen it before, with like Raccoon City in the background, and you also have the titular stalker-like character Nemesis at the top here. So we're just gonna do some analyzing of these screenshots, talk a little bit about the fan fallout, because the fans are not digging these redesigns. I, for one, couldn't really care less about people saying that they want Jill to look like this and that, etc. I already knew that Julie Evolve would not come back for this particular remake. I knew this was a pipe dream. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Capcom got new models, new actors, new actresses for these characters in Resident Evil Remake 2. If you don't get it by this point that they have replaced certain people, then I don't know what to tell you. All I can hope for is that the acting is solid in the game and the gameplay shows off some great stuff. Once again, they cut content from Resident Evil 2 Remake. They made A and B scenarios very, very lackluster in my opinion. So I'm worried about the gameplay aspect here, but I'm going to be talking about some of the designs. So Jill does not have her classic sort of little tube top here. She has like this blue tank top. I can't tell what type of like pants or skirt she's wearing because there is no like shots of the legs. All I can tell you is that she kind of reminds me a little bit of Lara Croft here with the tank top thing going on, you know, torn clothes. She has a elbow pad here, some gloves, a little bit of an update, but still, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world in my opinion. A lot of people said she looked like Natalie Portman. I kind of see it a little bit, but we're gonna move on to Carlos here. So I'm gonna go to my screenshot where it is significant. I don't have it here. Fuck. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna do this like freestyle. So Carlos, let's zoom in a little bit. A lot of people said he looked like Miguel from Tekken, and I am okay with this. Honestly, I knew Carlos was also going to get an update. What people are wondering is, will Carlos play a more significant part in the campaign considering he's on the cover? And I don't think he needs his own campaign in the game. It would be a nice perk, a nice addition to running around in Raccoon City with Carlos and seeing the other side of the story. However, I don't want them to treat it like A and B scenarios where one part is like insanely butchered or they just leave stuff on the cutting room floor. I think Carlos should have expanded segments. He should have expanded gameplay segments where you play as him more than once, because in the original game you only got to play with Carlos like one time and that was it. So maybe like play as him 3 times, 4 times. That would be a little bit up there, but still I want to get those sort of segments of playing with this character a little more, and hopefully he's a little bit more fleshed out. Obviously he does not look the same facial wise as he did in the original. He has like, you know, swept back hair. He has, I don't think he had facial hair in the original RE3. Correct me if wrong, but I don't think he had it. But still, you know, it looks all right. It looks all right for what they did. And we have the titular character here, Nemesis, and this is where some of the criticisms come in for me, because it's kind of weird, and I kind of look back at it and I'm trying to be like a little bit objective here, but are we really like having this beauty pageant session of people saying they don't like how Nemesis looks when he's supposed to look like this grotesque sort of monster? It gives me this like body horror vibe when I see his face like this, but I'm not feeling the nose. The slanted nose is kind of weird, but he still looks ugly. He's still an ugly looking creature, so I don't really get like all the big criticism there. He's supposed to look ugly, and he looks ugly. He has a wider breadth of teeth. I would say it's also a little bit weird with what they're going for here, because and let me make sure I'm recording. Nemesis has this like caution tape on his body. You know, that's kind of weird. Like, okay, it's obvious that he's a biohazardous creature. Do we really need the caution tape? And what is this tube? Like, the original Nemesis here, he had the tentacle tubes in his shoulders. You see that? And it made a little bit more sense, but it's like he has this weird sort of like plastic tube going in his shoulder, and I just find that odd. Maybe it will relate to some gameplay mechanics. We have no idea. What Capcom likes to do is they like to correlate these modern changes and modern updates to make things a little bit more explainable. Maybe it's a little bit more lore explainable. Maybe it's something that they'll talk about in a conference when they talk about the redesigns. They did this for Remake 2 as well, but the nose is kind of weird, but he still is ugly. Look at that. Just some grotesque shit right here, and they could always change the design as well later in development. You can see here that they have a Zero Z version, so they're gonna have a more bloody version, I think, in Japan. I don't know how it works, but I know they had two versions for Resident Evil Remake 2 when they did Zero Z, and they had another version for that. But I know it was censored in Japan as usual. And there's more little screenshots here to talk about. Here's a better sort of up close and personal visual of Jill's face. Looking good in my opinion. There's also this shot right here with Nemesis having a tentacle, and you can tell he has the signature trench coat, so that's also awesome. And there's also some discussion about this shot right here. Now, I don't believe the game is fully gold and printed just yet. I think these are placeholders. I think that the game is probably mid in development. It could be like maybe 60 or 70% complete at this time, because Remake 1, I mean not Remake 1, I apologize for that mistake, but Remake 2 came out in January. It came out in January of 2019, so they possibly could have been working on it from February onward, and then in 2020 they could work on it until late 2020 and release the game, because that's a more sensible time window. And it's also coming on current gen consoles. I thought to the contrary it would come on next generation platforms, but I guess I am sadly mistaken. Maybe they could make another next gen port just to sort of satisfy those people and make like more additions. They could always do that. Capcom could always do that, but I know they are going to jump on the next generation bandwagon sooner or later if it comes out holiday 2020 or close to that, maybe even closer. You never know how Capcom will sort of project these dates on the fan base. This game could be far along, a little bit more than we expected. Anyway, that is my analysis on the screenshots of Resident Evil 3 Remake. Honestly, I am excited if this game has some fixes. There is some concerns there, like, okay, how will the running mechanics work? Because Nemesis is a relentless pursuer. He chases after Jill constantly. He runs. He's a harder enemy to deal with than Mr. X. So how will the gameplay accommodate this sort of relentless pursuer? I want to know how this all works. I want to know how they'll do live selection, considering the fact that live selection was a big part of Resident Evil 3 and it could change scenarios and turn things differently. Will they bring back the fact that Nemesis can be downed and you could get parts and weapons off of him? There's also the fact of noticing what other changes will be made, what enemies will be in, what enemies will stay, and what will go. Hopefully all the enemies from RE3 makes it in, but it is interesting to note that this game could come sooner than later. And considering the assets of Resident Evil 2 Remake, I am not surprised they announced this earlier than expected. Well, I have to say quote unquote announced, because this was actually leaked. Yes, PlayStation goofed about this and they actually leaked this on PSN, and you can find like several images of it now. And I believe also Project Resistance got its title and that got leaked as well. It's now called Resident Evil Resistance. But yeah, it's a big goof by PSN. This happened to Capcom twice in a year. It also happened to Capcom when they did the Street Fighter V DLC on Steam, and that got leaked out and they had to release the trailer preemptively. So maybe they could do the same thing here. Since the cat is out of the bag, and I don't think this is fan art, I think this is definitive proof for Resident Evil 3 Remake. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Outside of a few key changes to Nemesis, I really am loving everything I'm seeing so far, and I cannot wait to dive in, sink my teeth in further. As a big Resident Evil fan, I just played Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, so you know I am more than excited to see what they do with the bosses, the gravediggers, the drain demos, everything. I want to have my custom Western shotgun back, fam, just like Terminator 2, just like Arnie did when you fucking just rotate that motherfucker around and blow Nemesis's face off. Woo, man, I can't imagine how creepy this game is going to be. Imagine Nemesis like walking up in the save room saying, "Surprise, nigga, this is my house." Imagine how fun that's gonna be. Like, well, maybe that's way too terrifying. Maybe that could be correlated to a higher difficulty, because if Nemesis fucks me on normal like that, then I'm going to be very, very salty. I just hope they handle this well. I hope. The thing is, with rushing something like this out to show like these promotionals and show that they are long the way in some regard, in some capacity, I don't want them to rush the experience. Like, oh, early next year, that'd be like so little time to get that done and finalized. I just hope that they do something like summer 2020 or late 2020 or maybe even 2022. Take all the time you need, work out the kinks, make sure everything is like, you know, Jill's got to be fast, man. She's got to be moving against Nemesis. This guy's going to be moving, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard game due to him chasing you everywhere, but that's the fun, that's the challenge, that's the exhilarating rush that I need in my veins right now, and I cannot wait to see how they do this. I'm going to keep a keen observation for this. There will be criticisms, there will be nitpicks, but no game is perfect. Everyone needs to notice that. And once again, I don't find this whole beauty pageant thing or this obsession with people having bed hair or looking like actors. I just don't like that, because I prefer, you know, real people. I prefer realism and all that shit, and it seems like that's what they're doing here. And I really don't care about how the faces are. If you don't like a face, that's subjective, more power to you. But still, Nemesis looks ugly. Jill and Carlos look fine to me, and I don't see why people complain about that preemptively, and then they see a trailer and then they say, oh, I'm boycotting the game because of a face, and then they buy Resident Evil games anyway, because that's what people do. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I just wanted to get my opinions out there and talk about this. Like, this shit looks, I think the trailer's gonna look fire, man. Honestly, if they impress me, it's going to look pretty damn good. It already looks like it's going to be promising. I enjoyed Remake 2, and I cannot wait until this game drops. Capcom, just take your time. Like I said, don't cut shit out, and I think we'll be good. I think we'll be fine. I think the only other thing I have to mention, and I'm going to make this very brief because it's game development stuff, but the only other thing I have to mention is the outsourcing rumor by Dusk Golem. He mentioned that Resident Evil 3 Remake was going to be an outsourced title, which means another developer is going to be behind the helm of the project, and it won't necessarily be Capcom Dev Team 1 or whoever worked on Resident Evil 3 Remake. I think it was Dev Team 1. I really don't remember. My memory shot. I should look that up, but still, I'm just gonna say it's Dev Team 1. So they worked on RE2 Remake, and supposedly the rumor is this is getting outsourced to someone else. I think it is a possibility that someone else could have developed this game, but here's my thing. I don't think it's anyone else outside of an internal developer, because Capcom learned their lesson. Supposedly they learned their lesson from DMC Devil May Cry, the reboot, and that turned out to be really, really bad. Remember, they were doing like all these outsourcing ventures like Dark Void, DMC, and those games really didn't get over. Yeah, you would think they would learn their lesson if they didn't outsource internally, but I do think it is possible that they could have outsourced to an internal Capcom studio, and someone else could have been developing this game within Capcom walls that weren't necessarily Dev Team 1. I do believe that could be a possibility, and I wouldn't entirely rule that out. And this game looks like it's using the RE engine. It really does. So that requires some familiarity with the RE engine in order to get this developed. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out internal teams entirely. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if this is true or false, but mostly that's just a rumor for now by Dusk Golem. But I do believe the game could be coming as soon as 2020. I do believe that has to be a fact, because we're really far along with this, with the way they have like screenshots and everything, you know, cover art and everything. So I do believe we are definitely somewhere in development where you could say the game is probably going to be playable. And remember, this game is probably going to be at Jump Fiesta. They announced that Capcom had a game that was going to be playable there that was unannounced and is going to be unveiled December 20, I think it's December the 22nd, I believe. So yeah, if you're looking forward to possibly hearing about more RE3 news, it is supposedly going to be at Jump Fiesta in December of the 22nd. So like I said, looking forward to this. I want to see how development goes. I want to see what's good, what's bad, what can be suggested for improvement, and hopefully you guys really like this video. I mean, once again, I didn't expect it to be this long, but I am an avid Resident Evil fan, so I had to talk about it once again. If you like this video, be sure to check out my description below and follow all my social media ventures. I am Renegade Operative signing out. Once again, take care, and remember, if you want to give someone that kind, tender love, then remember, if they want stars, give them stars. I'll see you guys next time. Later.